This episode is brought to you by Marqeta. When it comes to your payments provider, you can't afford to compromise. Marqeta's modern payment solutions flex with your business without the trade-offs. Stable and agile, secure and innovative, scalable and configurable. If they say you can't have it all, don't believe them. Your business demands more. Choose a payments provider that delivers more. Choose Marqeta. Visit marqeta.com/Spotify to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Good morning. This is James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden on this Thursday, October 2nd. It is Yom Kippur, and Noam Laden is off in observance of the Jewish holiday, so you got James Flippin. We wish you all a meaningful fast, and you're waking up to mostly clear skies around the tri-state, 57 degrees in Midtown Manhattan, a slight breeze right now. Here's the 3-day 77 WABC weather forecast to kick things off. Later today, sunny, a high near 66. Tonight into Friday, partly cloudy, a low near 53. And tomorrow, Friday, mostly sunny, a high near 71. Saturday, sun, 78, where we'll top out. Why not let you know that Sunday, you can expect sunny skies with a high near 80. 56 degrees in Toms River, New Jersey, 50 degrees in Wading River on Long Island, and 57 right here in the heart of New York City. All right, so let's get into our top 5 headlines, shall we?
This is the Top 5 at 5.
Starting it off here, 2 planes collided on the runway at LaGuardia Airport last night. A flight attendant was injured. And the partial government shutdown, still a thing. What is the latest out of D.C.? We'll tell you. Walmart getting on board with the MAHA agenda. It's all about the artificial dyes and getting rid of them. The world remembering Jane Goodall, the famed primatologist who died yesterday at the age of 91. And finally, we'll tell you what we know about that Bronx partial building collapse, including what officials say caused it. So out in Queens this morning, one person is being treated for injuries after 2 Delta regional jets collided at low speeds while taxiing last night at LaGuardia Airport. Air traffic control said the right wing of one plane collided with the nose of another plane, and there was also damage done to one of the aircraft's windshields. Port Authority describing it as a slow-speed collision on the runway. The 2 Delta regional jets operated by Endeavor Air, and they came together at low speeds just before 10 o'clock last night. The Port Authority says an inbound plane was taxiing to the gate. It was hit by an outbound jet. The flight attendant injured, hospitalized as a precaution. A Delta spokesperson has confirmed with Fox News Digital that it's a minor injury for that flight attendant, treated by EMTs before being taken to the hospital as a precaution. No other passengers injured. And then everyone from both planes taken back to the terminal. And Delta says the flight leaving LaGuardia was headed to Roanoke, Virginia. The arriving flight coming in from Charlotte, North Carolina. Passengers deplaned on the taxiway, and they were taken back to Terminal C by bus. And I guess Delta's told Fox News customers were given food, beverages, hotel accommodations, and rebookings. Port Authority says there's no impact on airport operations there at LaGuardia, but always a good idea to check with your carrier ahead of time if you are flying today. The partial government shutdown continues today over funding disagreements. The shutdown likely to last until at least tomorrow as senators have left town in observance of Yom Kippur. Some congressional lawmakers are asking for their pay to be withheld during the shutdown. Some people might not realize that members of Congress continue to get paid during the partial government shutdown. And so here are some representatives that are saying, don't pay me. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Democratic Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey, and Republican Congresswoman from New York, Elise Stefanik, who has indicated that she'll declare her candidacy for governor after Election Day in November. They're saying that they should not be paid. So, Walmart, the big box retailer, sometimes said to be woke. You could think back in particular to the post-George Floyd's death era when DEI stuff was really stepped up there at Walmart. But then November of last year, Walmart started to roll back its DEI policies after an activist led an anti-woke campaign. And now Walmart is making changes to its food ingredients that fall in line with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again agenda. The nation's largest retailer removing synthetic dyes and over 30 ingredients from its private label products.
At Walmart's headquarters in Arkansas, teams are busy reformulating products. Scott Morris oversees Walmart's private food brands and tells the Today Show it's not as easy as using a carrot to make something orange.
This is a direct response to what the customer is telling us. They're looking for simpler ingredients, simpler nutrition panels. There's not a single solution for any given product. You can find the perfect yellow with turmeric, or you can find the perfect purple in a purple carrot, but it doesn't mean it'll apply to every product the same.
Walmart now joins PepsiCo, General Mills, and Kraft Heinz, which have made similar pledges. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
The world is mourning Dr. Jane Goodall, who died yesterday in Los Angeles at the age of 91. She was on the West Coast for a speaking engagement and was a tireless activist for wildlife preservation and habitat preservation, definitely an environmentalist. This audio, courtesy of National Geographic, dating back to the 1960s.
Louis Leakey sent me to Gombe because he believed that an understanding of chimpanzees in the wild would help him to better guess how our Stone Age ancestors may have behaved.
And one of the things she observed and was considered a key discovery, so to speak, chimps using tools, such as in this clip. The chimpanzee used a long stick to fish ants out of a mound of dirt and then snacked on those ants.
Man the toolmaker is how we were defined. And here was David Greybeard using a tool.
Florida Aquarium CEO Roger German hosted an event with Goodall in Tampa 2 years ago.
She always talked about hope, and she always invested in people, and she was extremely empathetic. She was extremely passionate and dedicated.
German recalling that Goodall brought his own daughter on stage when he interviewed her at that private event.
How cool is that to be the CEO of the Florida Aquarium, have your 12-year-old daughter sit side by side with, Dr. Jane and really talk about conservation.
And German adding that Dr. Goodall leaves behind a tremendous legacy for the conservation and environmental movements.
Jane Goodall has left us, but now it is up to us to carry on that legacy, and it's up to us in mass to further her work and her passion and her vision.
German says even though Dr. Goodall made her name researching chimpanzees, she understood the power of people. And Goodall founded the institute that bears her name, as well as Roots and Shoots, a hands-on environmental program for young people. WABC News Time, 5:07. WABC News Time, 5:08 on this Thursday, October 2nd. And I'm James Flippin here during the 5 a.m. news hour. Yesterday's partial building collapse in the Bronx miraculously resulted in no deaths, 0 injuries. When you see the video of it happening, it's hard to believe. Just the massive pile of bricks left down below could easily have taken someone's life, but no deaths, no injuries. This in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx at a public housing building, a NYCHA facility or campus, as the city calls them, the Mitchell houses. Around 8:15 yesterday morning, this happened, a massive explosion. Residents who were home at the time felt it and heard it.
NYCHA really needs to figure things out and get it together because this is unsafe. And I'm just happy nobody got hurt. That's the big thing. Nobody got hurt. Everybody was okay.
So I just told them I needed 5 minutes just to grab a few things. Just clothes and my birth certificate, things like that, just in case they don't let us back in. We don't know how long it's going to be.
The FDNY says workers were doing a routine safety check on the boilers, and that's when the massive explosion happened. The ventilation shaft or chimney collapsed, all 17 stories of it, more or less shearing off the entire corner of that building. So around 100 people have been put up in hotels thanks to the Red Cross. But everyone else living in apartments not connected to that corner of the building were allowed back in. I don't know how comfortable I would be being in that building after that happened, but hey, they say it's safe. So it is Yom Kippur, the highest of holy days for the Jewish faith, known as the Sabbath of Sabbaths. It encourages the atonement of sins. Atonement, fasting, prayer, tradition for family members. Meanwhile, many are rightly outraged that New York University has decided to block or cancel an October 7th vigil. And that's because officials say they can't keep it safe. Jewish legal analyst Ilya Shapiro was to be part of this event. NYU's chapter of the Federalist Society had planned to host Shapiro for a midday discussion that day, but the event was canceled after NYU administrators stepped in. The group was asked to host Shapiro on a different date due to security reasons and because the university said it was anticipating a, quote, increased likelihood of demonstrations and protests connected to the October 7th anniversary. Imagine that. Your protests when these people are coming together because of the terrorist attack. But that's according to emails shared with Fox News Digital. The request was later turned into an outright refusal to permit the event during the week of the October 7th anniversary, which is rapidly approaching. In terms of the war in Gaza, Hamas has indicated there are parts of President Trump's 20-point peace plan they can't accept. President Trump this week, alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, unveiled the details of that plan.
The Gaza Strip would be run by international peacekeepers from a variety of nations. An international force has not been set up yet. And it would be governed not by Hamas, not by any known Palestinian political party, but instead by apolitical technocrats. Hamas has not responded officially to President Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza, which has already been accepted by Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu. In fact, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Trump say that unless Hamas responds in the next several days, Israel will intensify its war in Gaza.
Correspondent Richard Engel with that report. But yeah, if Hamas were to reject the deal, Trump has said he would let Israel go and do what they have to do. In New Jersey, in Cranford, a teenager stands accused of first-degree murder in the deaths of two Cranford girls, both 17 years old. In fact, the boy, the suspect, also 17, is from Garfield, New Jersey. Reports are that he was stalking one of the two girls he killed. Potentially, this was going on for months, the stalking. The Union County prosecutor says the 17-year-old boy from Garfield struck the two Cranford girls while they were riding their e-bikes on Monday night. The alleged killer used an SUV and mowed them down, then kept going. Neighbors have identified the two girls as Maria Niotis and Isabella Salas. Neighbors, also the ones telling multiple news outlets that this boy, now charged with murder, had been stalking one of the girls for months, parking his car in front of her house, following her to school. They also say a restraining order had been filed against him. In Memphis, Tennessee, the Federal Department of Justice is now taking part in the crackdown on crime, something we've already seen in Washington, D.C., for example. Attorney General Pam Bondi saying in the early part of this Memphis operation, some 50 arrests were made, and she also spoke to Real America's Voice.
We know President Trump knows when the government shuts down, crime doesn't shut down. And so we're not going to let that impact what we're doing in fighting to keep America safe. Memphis has the highest violent murder rate in the entire country. Just this year alone, they have had 150 murders, and it's going to stop. We're all working together, and we're going to meet with the governor, the mayor. I talked to both of our U.S. senators last night.
And that's Attorney General Pam Bondi. Speaking of federal authorities enforcing laws, federal agents took down and arrested another man at the Portland ICE facility last night. Video posted to social media by Fox News reporter Bill Malugin showed the guy was dragged away into the facility. Malugin noting he's not sure what led to the guy getting arrested in the first place, but there have been ongoing demonstrations in Portland outside the ICE facility, Portland being a leftist and Antifa stronghold, and Antifa, of course, now officially a domestic terrorist organization. The Pentagon says the U.S. is reducing its military mission in Iraq. A military spokesman confirming the U.S. and its coalition partners are pulling its forces from Iraq to reflect the combined success in fighting ISIS. Washington and Baghdad made an agreement last year to reduce the military's presence to focus on fighting ISIS in Syria. And so less than 2,000 troops are expected to be in Iraq once the transitions are complete. WABC News Time coming up on 5:15 this morning. And so Yankees fans know there will be a Game 3 in this opening wild card series. Last night, the Yankees were able to pull out a win in Game 2, and the Red Sox also used a lot of their bullpens, so it could be tough for them in Game 3 in the Bronx. Let's turn now to Justin Ellick and get the latest in 77 WABC Sports.
Well, you touched on a lot of it there, James Flippin. Thanks
I guess you don't even have to do it now. It's like done.
Unbelievable. This is my
I make
time,
your life
right?
easier, and you're upset about that?
What a night it was in the Bronx. So back and forth all night long between the Yankees and the Red Sox. Very exciting ball game, as was Game 1, I will say. The Bombers showing some grit and determination with their backs against the wall and facing elimination, of course, en route to beating the Sox 4-3 in the middle game of this AL wildcard series. Ben Rice set the tone with a 2-run homer in the first, but Boston battled back behind Trevor Story, who drove in 2 and later tied the game with a solo blast. New York regained the edge when Aaron Judge scored on a misplayed fly ball by Jarren Duran, and the decisive blow came in the 8th when Austin Wells ripped.
Yeah, that was a hit, apparently, by the way.
It was a hit, but it still is a misplayed fly ball. Would you not categorize it as a misplayed fly ball?
It was an error.
I would classify it as an error.
Okay, good. We're on the
I
same
would
page.
say that it was almost on the same level as, not on the same level. It was a can of corn that Judge dropped in Game 5 of the World Series last year.
Right, but kind of clankish, similar.
Very clankish,
Yeah.
right off the heel of the glove. You got to catch that ball. I would have caught it. Hello?
I'm begging you to stop.
I would have caught it.
Even after all those beers.
Yeah. I would have been seeing 4 baseballs, and I still would have caught the right one. Come on. But the big blow here, flipping Austin Wells, ripping that clutch RBI single to score Jazz Chisholm Jr. on a bang-bang play at the plate. Here's what that sounded like, courtesy of ESPN.
7th pitch of the at-bat coming to Austin Wells. And he lines one into right field. Fair ball! Chisholm to third. He's being waved. Eaton coming home. Here's the throw. He's safe! And the Yankees have the lead on Austin Wells' single. And the speed of Chisholm.
I got to tell you, Jazz Chisholm Jr. playing in that ball game last night. Ben Rice playing in that ball game last night. Yankees don't win that game, obviously, without those two guys. And those are two guys that were not included in the starting lineup in Game 1. So hopefully manager Aaron Boone has woken up a little bit, and you'll see, hopefully, a very similar lineup for the New York Yankees at the stadium tonight. Of course, Game 3 at the stadium. Winner take all. The rookie Cam Schlittler will get the start of his life in what will be an 8 p.m. first pitch from the Bronx. Looking ahead to that. Their finals from around the major leagues yesterday, or wild card round. The Guardians took care of the Tigers 6-1, Game 2 there. That series also knotted at 1. Game 3 this afternoon at 3 p.m. from Cleveland. The Padres bested the Cubs 3-0. That series also knotted at 1 game apiece. Game 3 tonight at 5 p.m. And as for the Dodgers and the Reds, Dodgers are moving on. They double up the Reds once again, 8-4. They win that series, moving on to face Philadelphia in the NLDS beginning on Saturday, and a one Shohei Ohtani will get the start in that series opener come the weekend. And we are looking ahead to the start of Week 5 already, man, in the NFL. 8:15 p.m. kickoff tonight, Thursday Night Football. 49ers at Rams, and the Rams there 8.5-point favorites. Giants get the Saints on Sunday in New Orleans, 1 p.m., and the Jets will host the Cowboys Sunday, also 1 p.m. That is your Sports Flippin'. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
And 77 WABC News Time, 5:20. So before we stepped aside for sports and traffic, we were telling you about the troop drawdown in Iraq. Well, Afghanistan residents are rejoicing as the internet returns following a Taliban internet blackout. Local reports say communications have resumed, as a source close to the government confirming to the BBC that The internet was back by order of the prime minister. It was a 48-hour blackout. Businesses disrupted, flights canceled in Afghanistan. Access to emergency services was limited. And then here in the States, Starbucks just abruptly closed over 30 stores in New York City, most of these in Manhattan, all part of the plan to shutter hundreds of cafes. It is a $1 billion restructuring plan announced at the end of last month by the Seattle-based coffee giant Starbucks. It was last week when the plan was protested against in Chicago.
Workers at a Chicago location stood outside to protest the news. The coffee giant said it plans to close about 1% of its more than 18,000 North American locations. The company also announced 900 corporate layoffs. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
And speaking of that kind of stuff, did you know, and I bet you did not, yesterday was National Pumpkin Spice Day.
Celebrating the spice blend of cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and clove, coffee, beer, pie, bread, pastries. Starbucks started its PS Fall Specials August 26, which led to a lot of groans from customers, as only 32% of us actually like it. I'm Bree Tennis.
Only 32%. I would have thought it was higher than that, given how much of a big deal everybody makes about it. All right, well, here in the tri-state, amid the ever-present and always top-of-mind for parents threat of school shootings, another local school district is thinking about hiring armed guards.
Over 600 parents in Islip have signed the petition that asks the school board to hire armed security guards.
We need to have a better line of defense to protect our children while they're in school. There's armed security everywhere protecting you. Why are we not doing the same for our children?
Parents say there's no specific incident that sparked the petition, but they worry that school shootings have just become all too common.
Do I think that sends a mixed message to students? 100%. And that's where I would think that there would be a different resolution.
At least 20 school districts on Long Island have armed guards now, the majority of them in Suffolk County. Noam Layden, WABC News.
A judge declined to dismiss a lawsuit that wanted to put sharp restrictions on the abortion pill known as mifepristone. The lawsuit was originally filed against the Federal Drug Administration in 2022 by a group of anti-abortion activists and doctors. Rather than dismissing the case, the Texas-based judge transferred it to the Eastern District of Missouri in the interest of justice. Meanwhile, a lawsuit over Nirvana's 1991 album cover for Nevermind has been dismissed.
Only wants a cracker. Maybe she would like some food.
And if you know the album cover, well, Spencer Eldon was the little baby, and he was photographed as the naked baby on the album's cover. He filed a lawsuit claiming the image was child pornography and that his guardians did not consent to its use, the photo. A federal judge disagreed and noted that Eldon, who's now in his 30s, has embraced and profited off the image by signing memorabilia and referring to himself as the Nirvana baby. A Manhattan federal judge is blocking the Trump administration from withholding millions of dollars to defend the subway from terror attacks. The judge issued a temporary restraining order saying the state will be quite likely to prove its case. State Attorney General Tish James sued over the more than $33 million that funds police assigned to the subway to stop terror threats. Homeland Security said the funding was pulled in response to the state's sanctuary laws, which openly flout citizenship and immigration laws. Homeland Security also taking the step because local cops are blocked from doing more to help with federal deportations. The judge noted the law that created the funding in the first place instructed that terror risk should be the only consideration governing its use. And the Trump White House delaying a 100% tariff that it threatened to impose on drug makers. Last week, the president took to Truth Social and announced the administration would enforce the tariff unless a drug maker is in the process of building a manufacturing plant here in the States. And while the tariff is being delayed, the White House also emphasizing the president's commitment to lowering drug prices. It was earlier this week when we heard about Trump RX, the website that will allow Americans to buy drugs at lower prices as negotiated by the government. Pfizer on board with that plan. So do you know which author has the most banned books here in the U.S.? It's Stephen King, it turns out.
The nonprofit PEN America recorded nearly 7,000 instances last school year of books being banned across almost half of the country, with the vast majority in Florida, Texas, and Tennessee. It found the most banned books were by best-selling horror author Stephen King, whose books were banned over 200 times last year. King blasted the bans on social media and suggested people read his books to see what all the moaning is about. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
There's a report saying the Trump administration will keep the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island open during the government shutdown. The New York Post, quoting an Interior Department spokesperson who says the White House will keep the two monuments in New York Harbor open. And during shutdowns in 2013 and then the most recent one in 2018, New York State had to foot the bill when the cash stopped coming from Washington. Governor Kathy Hochul has said that the state won't pay this time. And so I guess the federal government will. National parks going to remain partially open during the government shutdown, and that includes 64% of the National Park Service workforce being furloughed. Emergency services will be limited, and if that leads to some sort of overall safety issue, an area will be forced to close. This isn't appropriate to mention, though. This will be a day where there will be a unique naturalization ceremony held at Mount Rushmore. Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem will be at the Mount Rushmore National Memorial Amphitheater in Keystone, South Dakota today to host that ceremony. The oath of allegiance will be administered to 73 candidates for naturalization, and after the ceremony, the new citizens of the United States will be encouraged to register to vote. WABC News Time, 5:27. 77 WABC News Time, 5:29. This is our 5 a.m. news hour, and we're taking you right up to Sid and Friends in the morning. Sid, not in today. He is atoning, observing the day, the holiday, Yom Kippur, and so it'll be myself and John Katsimatidis in for Sid and Friends in the morning. But we've got a half hour of news to talk about still, and out on Long Island, the body of a woman found in a dumpster over 40 years ago is now being identified. The body was found in 1982. This was in a dumpster in Freeport in November. And yesterday, cops identified the remains as belonging to 15-year-old Susan Mann. Susan had gone missing from her home in Hollis, Queens, in May of 1980. No leads about her disappearance have ever been released. Cops at the time said they found no cause of death on the body, and there is a $5,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest in that case. When we come back, an update in terms of New York City's shootings. Also, what New York lawmaker Hakeem Jeffries says about the partial government shutdown and what Vice President J.D. Vance thinks about the whole thing. Also, a change for the FBI and the ADL. Those stories and more on the 77 WABC 5 a.m. News Hour. James Flippin in for Noam Laden.
The 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
On 77 WABC.
77 WABC.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Good morning. This is James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden, who is off on this Yom Kippur, and we do wish you a meaningful fast. It's Thursday, October 2nd. Mostly clear skies around the tri-state, 55 degrees right now in Midtown Manhattan with a slight breeze. And here's the 3-day 77 WABC weather forecast. As later today, we'll get up to 66 degrees under mostly sunny skies. Overnight into Friday, partly cloudy, a low near 53. Tomorrow, Friday, mostly sunny, a high near 71. Saturday, 78 the high. Sunday, getting up to 80. 55 in Toms River, New Jersey, 50 in Wading River on Long Island, and 54 right now in the heart of New York City. Well, officials here in the Big Apple say gun violence is down.
Mayor Eric Adams and the NYPD are announcing the city is seeing historic lows in gun violence so far this year. Shooting incidents fell by more than 20% on the year and over 15% over the summer.
Because of our steadfast focus on public safety, the deep bench of leaders we've put in place here at police headquarters and the hard work of the brave men and women of the NYPD, New York City remains the safest big city in America.
NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch credits the low numbers to a precision policy strategy put in place this year. I'm Lisa Ritchie, 77 WABC News.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the New York congressman, says he has not heard from the White House since meeting with President Trump on Monday. And Jeffries said on CNN that Trump has been behaving somewhat erratically and in an unconventional fashion in the context of the government shutdown. And hilariously, those moments on CNN were made into another one of those memes. I don't know if you've seen those with the Mexican hat dance. They put Jeffries with the big sombrero, and he's got a big mustache, and it's anyway. Funding measures from both sides of the political aisle shot down yesterday. Not a surprise that both sides are blaming each other. Vice President J.D. Vance calling out Democrats.
He made an appearance during Wednesday's White House press briefing.
They said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for health care for illegal aliens. That's a ridiculous proposition.
He added that critical needs for the country are being held hostage by Democrats with the lockdown. A partial shutdown began when Democrats and Republicans could not reach a deal to keep the government funded. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The FBI has ended its partnership with the Anti-Defamation League. In a post on social media, FBI Director Kash Patel said the Jewish advocacy group has spied on Americans. Patel also claims that former FBI head James Comey wrote, quote, love letters to the ADL and even embedded FBI agents with that group. The ADL, in a statement, says it has deep respect for the FBI and remains more committed than ever to its core purpose of protecting the Jewish people. The ADL has been criticized by Republicans recently because it included Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, in its glossary of extremism. There are multiple reports that the U.S. will provide Ukraine with intelligence to conduct missile strikes deep inside Russia. The reports cite U.S. officials saying the long-range strikes will target Russia's energy infrastructure. And the U.S. is also considering sending missiles to Ukraine that could be used in the strikes. The Wall Street Journal reporting the U.S. has asked NATO allies to provide similar support. WABC News Time, 5:37. WABC News Time, 5:40 on this Thursday, October 2nd. James Flippin filling in for Noam Laden. President Trump is defending his decision to deploy National Guard troops to Portland.
According to the president, he had no choice but to deploy troops over the protests of local officials and referred to the city as a never-ending disaster. The War Department authorized 200 members of Oregon's National Guard after Trump said he would send troops to protect the city and an ICE facility. The state of Oregon, as well as the city of Portland, have sued the administration in an effort to block the deployment of troops to the city. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Wall Street closed with stocks higher yesterday, and that's despite the government shutdown, which had taken place just past midnight Wednesday. In today's economic calendar, you're looking for initial jobless claims. Those will come out 8:30 this morning, and then 10 a.m. this morning, we get August's factory orders. Vice President J.D. Vance is in support of proposed hygiene changes that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth plans to implement for military members. Hegseth looking to raise grooming standards. He told the military's senior-most officers he no longer wants to see fat generals and admirals, also declaring soldiers must shave their facial hair. The vice president, J.D. Vance, who notably has a beard, defended Hegseth and said he thinks it's a very good thing that the Secretary of War wants to implement those high standards across the military. Vance says he doesn't plan on shaving his beard, though he did sport a clean-shaven look while serving in the Marine Corps. Out in California, an ex-boyfriend of Celeste Rivas, the teenage girl whose dismembered body was found in the trunk of a car owned by singer David, said she left a troubled home life behind when she ran away as a teen. 15-year-old Damian Hernandez, the ex-boyfriend, or I guess just maybe friend, told TMZ that he and Celeste had dated in middle school. He says the 15-year-old, now deceased girl complained about her mom not treating her well, and often discussed how she wanted to run away from home. And he basically says he thinks maybe he should have done something about it. But we've heard that Rivas had an alleged relationship with this singer, David, Investigators have not yet determined the cause of death for Rivas. They are not pursuing a suspect or person of interest at this time. In more positive-related music news, Journey has confirmed the band will return to the road in 2026.
During an interview with Eddie Trunk, the musician said they have about 120 shows booked and will probably add more to the schedule. He revealed that half of the shows will take place next year, while the other half are scheduled for 2027. Schoen said he couldn't reveal many details until the pending trek is officially announced, but he did reveal that the sets are going to be long. I'm Mark Mayfield.
It was Neil Schoen who had announced that in the first place. Hurricane Imelda has become a Category 2 storm. The storm did not make landfall in the U.S., but its impacts have been felt up and down the East Coast. One person died in Florida earlier this week after being pulled away by a rip current. At least 6 homes in North Carolina were washed away. Out in Colorado, investigators are sifting through improperly stored bodies at a mortuary. The probe could take several more months.
Colorado Bureau of Investigation's lead on this case, Clint Thomason, says only 6 of the 24 bodies recovered have been identified.
The remains so far have been in the area between 2010 and 2012.
Former Pueblo County Coroner Brian Cotter and his brother Chris co-own the mortuary and are of interest to law enforcement in the case.
We don't have any indication that they're a flight risk. Plus, we've been in contact with Mr. Cotter's lawyer almost on a weekly basis.
Charges aren't likely to come until all bodies are identified. I'm Rob Dawson.
President Trump has issued an executive order. It says any attack on Qatar will be treated as a threat to U.S. security. The president's order declares the U.S. will take all lawful and appropriate measures to defend Qatar. Trump's order marking a significant commitment to a non-NATO Arab ally. It also follows Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's apology to the Qatari Prime Minister for Israel's strike in Doha last month. And that attack targeted Hamas officials, but a civilian was killed in Qatar. Coming up, WABC News Time, 5:45, and Justin Ellick is going to get us caught up on sports as the sports world will have its eyes tuned to the Bronx. 8 o'clock tonight for Game 3 of the AL Wildcard Series. Justin, no doubt, will be excited about that one. He's going to have to take a nap at some point so he can watch the game.
Yes, sir, right? Indeed, Flippin'. Yeah, I'll grab a couple hours of shut-eye here before first pitch tonight, 8 p.m. from Yankee Stadium. And what a night it was last night in the Bronx. Bombers showing some grit and determination. Their backs up against the wall and facing elimination en route to beating the Red Sox 4-3 in the middle game of this AL Wildcard Series. Ben Rice set the tone with a 2-run homer in the first. But Boston battled back behind Trevor Story, who drove in 2 and later tied the game with a solo blast. New York regained the edge when Aaron Judge scored on a misplayed fly ball, and the decisive blow came in the 8th when Austin Wells ripped a clutch RBI single to score Jazz Chisholm Jr. on a bang-bang play at the plate. The Yankees bullpen trio, Fernando Cruz, Devin Williams, and David Bednar, shut the door late, preserving the 1-run lead and sending the series to a winner-take-all Game 3 tonight at the stadium. The rookie Cam Schlittler will get the start of his life in what will be an 8 p.m. first pitch from the Bronx. Other finals from around the major leagues yesterday, this wild card round. The Guardians over the Tigers 6-1 in Game 2 of that set. It's now knotted at 1 game apiece. Game 3 this afternoon at 3 p.m. from Cleveland. The Padres beat the Cubs 3-0. That series also tied at a game apiece. Game 3 tonight at 5 p.m. And out west, the Dodgers doubling up the Reds once again, 8-4. Dodgers win that series in a sweep, 2-0, moving on to face Philadelphia in the NLDS beginning on a Saturday. And, of course, it is Thursday, so we're looking ahead to Week 5 in the NFL starting tonight, 8:15 p.m. kickoff between the 49ers and the Rams. Rams there are 8.5-point favorites, and the Giants and the Jets will get the early afternoon slate once again this Sunday afternoon, both 1 p.m. kickoffs there. Giants are in New Orleans against the Saints, and the Jets will host the Dallas Cowboys. That's your Sports Jam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
And 77 WABC News Time, 5:47. WABC News Time coming up on 5:49 this Thursday, October 2nd. Do you ever get the feeling it's Taylor Swift's world and we're just living in it?
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. Swift is going all out to promote her latest album, The Life of a Showgirl, due out midnight on October 3rd, followed by the premiere of the album's film, the official release party of a Showgirl, at 3 p.m. in movie theaters. It will run through the 5th. She'll also be appearing on 3 late-night talk shows. In addition, on October 5th at 7 p.m., the music video for The Fate of Ophelia and The Life of a Showgirl lyric videos will premiere on YouTube. Also, Billboard is reporting that her song Father Figure will pay tribute to George Michael's song by the same name from the 80s. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
Well, speaking of showgirls, nearly 4 dozen illegal immigrants have been arrested at a Dallas strip club. The owners of Chicas Bonitas Cabaret are being investigated for human trafficking. The Department of Homeland Security says tens of thousands of dollars were also seized in the raid. One of the men arrested had illegally entered the country 10 times and was convicted of aggravated assault, drug possession, and driving drunk. Also in Texas, the state will no longer issue or renew commercial driver's licenses to refugees, asylum seekers, or DACA recipients. John Esparza is with the Texas Trucking Association, saying this move addresses a massive surge in fraud and abuse.
Those that are purchasing licenses online, obtaining them from Mexico, utilizing and abusing the reciprocity of those licenses. We might even see some changes that further influence how one obtains a CDL.
The rule change announced this week by the Texas Department of Public Safety. It follows the lead of President Trump, who last week moved to restrict non-citizens from getting CDLs. And you may remember that horrific crash in Florida, I think it was, when an Indian national was involved in a wreck. Want to tell you about our newsletter. You can go to WABCRadio.com to sign up. It's our new and improved newsletter, getting you the best of 77 WABC, sent directly to your inbox. Just go to WABCRadio.com. In fact, I'll do it with you right now. And you navigate to the tab that says News, go right down to Newsletter, and then click Sign Up for the newsletter. It's that easy. Drop your email in there, and then every Monday at 6 a.m., you will get the Fresh from the News Desk update. And following what was a truly awful and hard-to-watch knee injury during Monday Night Football against the Jets, Miami Dolphins star wide receiver Tyreek Hill is still in the hospital. He's undergone surgery. Head coach Mike McDaniel.
He'll spend the night again tonight for precautions, so he has the finest care, and there's been a plethora of teammates that have made sure that their guy is good.
McDaniel says Hill is doing well, will begin his long road to recovery. I think his agent said that they hope he can play next season, but there is going to be definitely some doubts about that. Primatologist Jane Goodall, dead at the age of 91. The Jane Goodall Institute announced her death on social media yesterday. She had been in Los Angeles, part of a speaking tour. Goodall started her research on chimpanzees in the wild in 1960 and through observation was able to show how primates display a bunch of similar behaviors, such as humans using tools and the fact that chimpanzees do the same thing. The Institute says that Dr. Goodall died of natural causes. Mayor Adams and the New York City Police Department have announced historic lows in gun violence so far this year. The Big Apple had the lowest total shooting incidents in the first 9 months of the year ever on record. Mayor Adams says this is a trademark of his administration.
Because of our steadfast focus on public safety, the deep bench of leaders we've put in place here at police headquarters, and the hard work of the brave men and women of the NYPD, New York City remains the safest big city in America.
And shooting incidents fell by more than 20% on the year and over 15% down over the summer months. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch credits those low numbers to precision policing, a strategy that has become increasingly popular over the last 10 years or so. New York filing an emergency order to block the Trump administration from defunding NYPD counterterrorism units, and there are police units assigned to the subways to protect riders from potential terror attacks. Attorney General Tish James suing the Trump administration's decision, and the judge basically said that he is going to put a hold on that halting of funds because he believes the state is likely to prove its case based off the fact that the law specifically says it's based on the terror risk that's out there. But the money was pulled by the White House because of the sanctuary laws. Monthly rents for rent-stabilized apartments in New York City are going up.
The price of rent went up Wednesday for New York City rent-stabilized tenants. This impacts more than 1 million apartments and close to 2.5 million New Yorkers.
In my neighborhood, the real estate industry builds luxury housing for the wealthy while pricing out and violently evicting long-term black and brown tenants.
Rent for one-year leases is rising by 3%, and for two-year leases, it goes up 4.5% for lease agreements that start in October and beyond. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
WABC News time 5:54. College football heading to London and Wembley Stadium for the first time ever. The Big 12 announcing Arizona State and Kansas will play in the Union Jack Classic September 19th of next year. And that will be the second college game to be played in Europe next year. Texas Christian University is going to take on the ACC's North Carolina and Ireland to open the season. And by the way, New Orleans will host the College Football National Championship in 2028. That announcement made yesterday. The 2026 championship game will be played in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. The three main candidates left standing in New York City's mayor race, hitting TV with general election ads. Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist and a state lawmaker, the Democrats' nominee, highlighting his affordability agenda. And that includes a proposal to freeze the increases on rent-stabilized apartments. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo, running as an independent, says he knows best how to make government work and says he would hire 5,000 new cops and get the homeless off the streets. Republican/independent Curtis Sliwa, without his Red Guardian Angels beret, said New York City deserves better than a career politician who sold us out and a socialist who claims to have all the answers. Sean Diddy Combs plans to speak at his sentencing hearing tomorrow. The rapper and business mogul will be sentenced after being convicted on federal prostitution charges earlier this year. In a court filing, his lawyers said Diddy wishes to appear before the court, address Your Honor, and allocute in the most dignified and respectful fashion possible. He is also requesting that he be able to wear street clothes rather than his jail jumpsuit during the hearing. Prosecutors seeking an 11-year sentence for Diddy. All right, let's get you caught up on the ongoing partial government shutdown.
Vice President J.D. Vance is calling out Democrats over the government shutdown.
They said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for health care for illegal aliens. That's a ridiculous proposition.
He made an appearance during the White House press briefing. He added that critical needs for the country are being held hostage by Democrats with the lockdown. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says he has not heard from the White House since meeting with President Trump on Monday. Jeffries said on CNN Wednesday that Trump has been behaving somewhat erratically and in an unconventional fashion in the context of the government shutting down. Jeffries added that Democrats are ready to work together to bring it back open, but in the way of a spending agreement that is bipartisan. Funding measures from both sides of the aisle were shot down Wednesday. The shutdown likely to last until at least Friday, as senators have left town in observance of the Jewish holiday Yom Kippur. And some congressional lawmakers asking for their pay to be withheld during the shutdown, among them Republican Senator Ted Cruz, Democratic Senator Andy Kim, and Republican Representative Elise Stefanik. I'm Mark Mayfield.
WABC News Time, 5:57. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and 40 years of that program has saved over 500,000 lives.
That's according to the American Cancer Society, which says the 5-year survival rate has jumped from 75% in 1985 to over 90% today. It notes that in the 1980s, only 1 in 4 women ages 40 and up were being screened for breast cancer, but today it's closer to 3 in 4 women. Cancer experts also attribute the dramatic rise in the breast cancer survival rate to better treatments. I'm Chris Coraggio.
WABC News Time, 5:59, and let's get what we're going to have today for the Sid and Friends in the Morning program from producer Justin Ellick.
Thank you, James Flippin. I'm staring at the boss man right here. He is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go with you here, as you'll be live in studio as well.
The John and James version.
The John and James version, yes, indeed, of Sid and Friends in the Morning. Obviously, it is Yom Kippur. Sid not here today, back tomorrow, just a day off here for the big guy, and we'll get going here in just a little bit, kicking us off here in the Wave guests. We'll talk to Greg Kelly, of course, our great colleague here, Greg Kelly Show, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. every weekday.
What a treat.
How about that? I know you and GK have just a great rapport.
In the AM hours, I'll get to talk to him.
Indeed. We'll talk to Roger Stone as well. Flipping right around 8:30 this morning. Peter King, the great former congressman, will join the program around 8:45. Chairman Ed Cox will join the program on his birthday. Happy birthday to the great Chairman Ed Cox. And looks like we'll talk to Governor David Patterson as well at some point this morning. All coming up, John and James' version of Sid and Friends in the Morning. Flipping coming at you in just a few short moments.
And that's Justin Ellick, the executive producer of the program. We are entering another day of a partial government shutdown. We'll definitely talk about that this morning. Also, President Trump talking about his decision to deploy National Guard troops to Portland, saying he had no choice but to do that. And the opening bell will ring this morning on Wall Street after stocks closed higher on Wall Street yesterday, despite the ongoing partial government shutdown. And then finally, world-renowned primatologist Jane Goodall, dead at the age of 91. Those tributes and remembrances continuing to come in. James Flippin having filled in for Noam Laden on the 77 WABC 5 a.m. News Hour. And we're coming back in just a few with Sid and Friends in the Morning, the John and James version. I'm James Flippin.